Hello and welcome to Sideways. I'm out with the dogs trying to move around under the cover of the trees to save us from the sun that has arrived with considerable heft in the UK these past few days. This week we're talking about the difference between supporting someone with addiction or mental health troubles and slipping into enabling behaviours that serve only to make matters worse. How can you spot it when it's happening? And what can you do about it? Martin and I allow ourselves the luxury of discussing football after our team finally won something, which leads us to consider the benefits of sober celebration and a rash agreement involving tattoos. We also cover tough love, and Martin recalls being tucked up by a friend and finding himself cutting the grass in a cemetery as a result. Supporting or enabling?
Good morning to you.
Morning. You got your West Ham shirt on?
Absolutely right. Yeah, I'm still in celebratory mood.
You didn't go out and go down the pub, I hope.
Absolutely not. No, but it's one of those. I've mentioned it a couple of times in this week's notes, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm just gloating a little bit. That's all, and I'm sure you'll join me in that.
I think we can be forgiven for mentioning football this week, and we can explain that to those that have no interest in sport, can't we?
We can, as we go
no
along.
Interest in football or no knowledge of football or whatever.
Absolutely right. But
I just thinking there. The traditional way to celebrate success certainly in our country is to go to the pub and get smashed, isn't it?
It sort of almost goes hand in hand, especially with football. Yeah.
So when you're in sobriety, we've often talked about how sobriety is in no way worse. It's just different. How do you celebrate in sobriety?
Well, I'll come. I'm going to come on to that a little bit because there's a little bit in my notes in the before we start bit, which refers to a blog touching on exactly that. So I'll come on to that if you don't mind. This idea that I've come up with I
don't know what it is.
Yeah, I did send you a message.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you were out helping your son move, so you probably didn't pick up. I saw that you did pick up the message for some time later.
Yeah.
So you probably missed it.
I did. So let's hope it's something that I know something about.
What it is, it's the difference between enabling and supporting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was an idea that's been on the list for some time. It's been kicking around for a little while, and we touched on it briefly when we had a guest on our show. Actually, I've had a gust on one of our episodes.
What you do in the comfort of your own trousers is entirely up to you.
We had a gust on an episode a couple of years back.
Was it a couple of years ago?
Well, I was trying to find the episode, but I can't remember what the name of the episode was. But we had a lady called KL on. Do you remember?
KL Wells,
from the US.
Yeah,
and she's the CEO of Voices in Courage.
Yeah.
Who had a son with addiction issues. And I remember asking her if she ever felt that she was treading over that line, which is, it's a very thin dividing line. It's often referred to actually as the invisible line. So they can blur very much into one, that enabling and supporting. And I remember her saying that she had great difficulty with that as a parent and the emotional draw that has on you.
Yeah, particularly difficult as a parent.
Yeah, it is. And or with someone, your partner, a loved one. I think this is where it is most prevalent. And it was that I wanted to talk to you about. But it comes up often in groups as well. So
what if I don't want to talk about it?
Oh, I'll do a monologue. See how we get on with that.
What, like Alan Bennett's Talking Heads?
That's it. Something like that. But you can just feel free to just sort of like that, disapprovingly.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hot, isn't it, that I'm not sure I've got a lot of energy to have a great debate anyway.
You're a bit of a wuss when it comes to the heat.
Hopefully the summer will be over soon. Roll on October, that's what I say.
Well, no, this is the time of the year I feel at my best, but it's the longest day soon, isn't it? We've got that slow march towards the misery of Christmas and the dark, damp weather.
Yeah, we are the yin and yang of climate, aren't we?
We are, yeah.
We seem to enjoy opposite seasons, really.
We do, yeah. Opposite polarities.
That's a word that's not used very often on
It's
here.
not. It's probably not even appropriate. It's normally used with magnets, isn't it? With opposite polarities and things.
What, the home improvement store?
They're not around.
They do kitchens. It was magnet kitchens.
They used to. I don't know if they're still around anymore, mate.
I don't suppose they are, no.
Anyway, before we start,
Yeah.
Aaron, who's one of our regular listeners, sent me a link to a blog from a guy called Sam Delaney. Mm-hmm. Now, he's 8 years sober and he's a West Ham fan, and he went to Prague last week to watch the Europa Conference League final. So it touched on what you were talking about there. He talks about his experiences before, during, and after the match. Mm-hmm. And it's a great blog. It's worth the read. I don't know if you've seen it, 'cause I think it's.
I haven't seen it. No.
But he was talking about that and how much the enjoyment was enhanced by being sober, because as you quite rightly mentioned earlier on, a lot of us consider celebrating a victory or any sort of well, we use it in all ways, don't we? Either when we're feeling poorly or we're feeling good. But certainly with celebrations, it's synonymous, especially after a football match, to properly get on it. And he was saying that life is just a collection of moments. You have to treasure the magic ones. You don't have to honour them by getting off your tits. That's his words. That's not mine. You can just live through them and relish every last drop of ecstasy they deliver. Now, I'd probably have used a different word from ecstasy in there, but I think the message is clear.
Yeah,
I think we watched the match together, didn't we? And
we did.
I celebrated by having lots of cups of tea, which made me go to the toilet a lot.
Yeah, you went to the toilet 5 times.
I did. The nervous tension was unbearable. Yeah.
Should we just for people who don't understand, because we do try and avoid talking about football.
We do.
You and I have been West Ham fans all our lives, pretty much. Yeah. And they never win anything. No. In fact, the last time they won anything was 43 years ago, and I was a teenager. Yeah. And the last time they won anything in Europe was 2 months before I was born. Yeah. So and I'm elderly, so that's a long time ago, right? And so this week they actually won a European competition. Yeah. Which is unthinkable, really, isn't it? It is, yeah. I mean, I don't know, whatever if you're listening to this, whatever you can think of that's incredibly unlikely, that is essentially what West Ham winning a European trophy is. And so I was saying to my daughter that I've never seen you that nervous. In all the years I've known you, no other football match has ever come close to that. You were like a cat on a hot tin roof, weren't you? It was, because I knew the rarity of playing in that situation. There's a very slim chance that West Ham were actually going to win something. And it was. And I've certainly never seen you almost unable to watch, which is what you were like at the end, weren't you? I was, and I think it wasn't an enjoyable experience. That's the problem. It was too nerve-wracking. Didn't enjoy it. Too stressful. It was very stressful. It's just the result was fine. The result made up for that. But that would have been in the situation, obviously, when I was back in the madness. I'd have been drinking so heavily to counteract that nervous feeling that I'd have missed it all. Well, you reminded me when we were watching it, and of course, when we had this conversation, we would have both. Well, I mean, you would have been a very heavy drinker, and I certainly would have been much a heavier drinker than I am these days. But you reminded me that many years ago, we made an agreement that if West Ham ever won anything again, we'd have to get tattoos. Were we teenagers when we made that pact? I don't know if we were teenagers, but I reckon, I don't think, I was certainly before I had children. Yeah. And so it was certainly in our much younger days. Yeah. But I was thinking about it. I think you'd look quite good with a big David Moyes on your back. I think it's just a delicate pair of little hammers, a couple of hammers somewhere discreetly positioned just to fulfill the obligation. So I'll book us up.
We can get down the tattoo parlour. You can have one done on your cheek, on your face. That'd look good. Or round your eye, like a Mike Tyson styley one. I think your clients would be happy with that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it looked good, wouldn't it?
Anyway, that blog I thought was great and it was worth putting in just at this point because it's not strictly related to what we talked to, so it's a good before we start. But he sort of summed up by saying, I've heard that. He was talking about the incredible bond between all the fans that were there and were over. Not a lot of them weren't at the game, and then latterly at the parade as well, which there's apparently over 150,000 people there.
Wow!
At the parade, it was massive, and he talks about that incredible bond. He said, "I've heard that the opposite of addiction is connection. This week, I discovered that to be true." So it sums up nice. It's an old phrase I often use. And also I'm glad he's sort of validated it as well.
That's funny that because I can remember I used to say when I used to have a season ticket at West Ham, I used to say it's the only place that I could go where I didn't know anybody but I felt connected to them.
Yeah,
because you're kind of you know with sort of 40,000 other people. And you know that you share there's something that you have in common, right?
Yeah, you do.
And there is something quite powerful about that. I was going to ask you a question there, actually. What was the question? Oh, I know. So I assume then when people first come into recovery, there must be some anxiety around, well, how the hell am I going to celebrate situations if I'm not drinking? There must be some angst about that.
Oh, yeah, there is.
When people first come in.
Yeah.
and then presumably there is a point at which they realise, oh, there's a different way of doing celebration that actually feels not only as good but better.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, in that situation, we'd probably avoid in early recovery, avoid going to the pub to watch it.
Yeah.
Watching it at home in the safety of your own confines, do that. It's not forever, as this guy's is quite great, beautifully illustrated. That he's 8 years sober, and he can go on these quite demanding trips if you're an alcoholic. Try to stay clear of things. So he's a long way down the line. But yeah, in the early days, you would avoid that and sit at home and have a cup of tea. And once you've done it a couple of times, you think, actually, I'm enjoying this, not waking up all bleary-eyed or feeling sick. And it's a much nicer experience, and you remember it. I remember great details of the match, even though I was looking at it from behind the sofa sometimes.
Yeah. I wonder if you'd have had to go to the toilet 5 times if you'd been on the beer.
Well, more than that. You need to take the telly to the toilet with you, to be honest. Yeah. Anyway. So anyway, we'll go on to the subject matter and just sort of an opening statement on this difference between enabling and supporting, which I want to read out. It's only a very short one. Enabling behaviours can encourage unhelpful habits and behaviours, even if it's unknowingly. But supporting behaviours can empower a loved one to recover. And it wasn't just strictly relating to recovery from alcohol or drug abuse. There it was really with regarding to mental health issues as well. So I wanted to look at really as the 3 little sections: what is enabling behaviour, examples of that, and what is supportive behaviour, so we can then sum it up as to which is the best way forward.
Sounds good. Sounds like you've got this covered. I might actually just sit and go,
Well, you've already said it was a bit too hot. I imagined you'd come on being like that, saying, "Oh, I don't like the heat, can't do any work," like that. Pathetic, in other words. No, it fell in quite nicely when I was writing this. It's one of those ones where you're doing the notes, it seems to flow quite nicely.
Well, I think we should probably do an episode on diversity, seeing as you don't seem to be very tolerant of someone who doesn't like the heat.
Okay, well, I'll let you do the notes on that one. I'll chip in. But looking at what enabling behaviour is, because when you think about it, and I've known a lot of people involved in this doing exactly what we're talking about here, and it seems to be a sort of a common coping mechanism, isn't it? That when it's seen amongst families where they have an addict in their midst, and we've used the hand grenade analogy in the past, haven't we? You throw having an alcoholic or a drug addict in the family is literally like throwing a hand grenade into the room full of your relatives, because everyone gets hit by the shrapnel, and different people within that room that get hit by the shrapnel have different ways of coping with it. And enabling seems to be, in many cases, one of the most common ways of dealing with it. And the reasons that happens, for what the research tells me is that for 2 or 3 reasons, really. One of them is obviously to try and change the unfavourable situation, which is understandable, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The people around the addict initially don't know what to do. They're thrashing out, and sometimes it's much easier to enable them than to confront it. The second point was regaining control, which is quite difficult with an erratic addict, but sometimes within a family unit, the control that has been there previously is suddenly out the window.
So to fix it, to gain control.
Yeah.
So these would, as you said before, these would also be absolutely true of other mental health issues. So if you've got, I couldn't say the word issues then. So if you've got, if you have someone in your family who's depressed, which tends to be really exhausting and debilitating, you would certainly do those first two. You do whatever you could to fix it, and then you'd probably take control. We're probably going to come on to talk about why those are not good strategies.
We are, and increased stability was the third one. But
what's the third one? Increased
stability.
Oh, increased stability. Yeah. Okay. Is that enabling? I suppose if you're doing that with regard to someone someone who's an active addict, then I suppose one could argue that increasing stability would be to enable them to continue drinking.
Stabilising.
So you are creating stability, but it's an unhealthy and destructive stability, right? Okay, that makes sense now.
I think we've got there on that. So examples of enabling behaviour, and these are the ones that I've thought about and have come across quite commonly, but also on the research reminded me of some situations as well. And the first one was the efforts to protect your loved ones from experiencing bad consequences, i.e. paying outstanding debts.
Yeah,
that is a massive one. That comes up all the time. Not just to pay outstanding debts. Outstanding debts tend to accrue when you're dealing with someone that's involved with drugs, because unless you get a tab down your local pub or your local off license, you're unlikely to run up debts. You drink as you go, sort of thing. You pay as you go.
But as you've said before, if you have addiction problems, then you probably going to have a financial meltdown generally in your life, aren't you?
Absolutely right, and everyone else will tell you once you go into full active addiction, you're fully in the throes of it. Finances, when they start to get tight, then you've got to have the money for your drink and your drugs, so everything else falls by the wayside. So you don't pay your mortgage, you don't pay council tax, and everything else gets messy.
But there must also be an element of, you might not be necessarily spending that money on drink, although you might be, of course, but there's a and this is again something you see sometimes with people with other mental health issues. There's just a general sense of chaos around keeping on top of your finances, and then things get out of control, and you stop opening letters, and so debts get overdue, and then interest accrues, and the whole thing starts to unravel. So
I think we all end up in court to deal with that one. That's for sure. All that malarkey, it's horrible. But if someone just came along and paid all your debts off, there'd be no consequences to your drinking. But I've seen it happen a lot with people that are in tick with their dealers, because they're dealers are ruthless, aren't they? And they will inflict violence, and not only you, on the family and everything. So, but I've seen that happen quite a lot. So although there is enabling someone, sometimes it is a defence strategy for the whole family. Yeah. Then hopefully they get the debt out of the way, and then crack on to trying to help them through. Another one that I've come across quite a lot is where the enabler will keep secrets about the drug or alcohol use, and making excuses for that person for their actions.
So does that mean keep secrets from other members of the family?
Or other friends, that perhaps a wider circle of friends around that person.
So that's kind of trying to maintain a control that's unhealthy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And doing that is it's because we know that can inflict some sort of pain upon the ego of the parent or the partner as well. They don't want to admit that their loved one has addiction issues. They will start to build up this story around them, which again, it keeps them almost safe to continue using.
Well, some of enabling is about the individual who's doing the enabling, isn't it? Because if you're kind of trying to wrest back control and you don't want to talk about the problem, there's something involved in that about you kind of dealing with your own inability to cope with the anxiety that you have. It's almost like they don't want to face it, and you don't want to face it either. And of course, all the time nobody's facing it, it's never going to get resolved.
No, it isn't. And I think sometimes we get enabling can increase. I've seen it happen quite close up, where everything else has been tried, and it's almost like the enabler gives up on trying to do anything else positive and just throws the towel in and just enables for a quiet life.
I think the other thing that happens, not so much necessarily in addiction, although I have seen it, you'll have more experience of that than I will, but something that I've seen in more in broader mental health issues is that sometimes people will enable unwittingly.
Yes.
I can think of lots of times where people will ask me questions about, my partner's depressed or my son's depressed or whatever, and I've tried to get him to do this and to do that. All the work is being done by the loved one.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's an incredible relief when you say to them, stop doing so much, step back, let go a bit. Because not only are you exhausting yourself in a way that's never going to have any payback, but you are enabling and you're taking the responsibility away from the individual. And the only person that's ever going to change this is them.
Absolutely.
So, I know you're going to come on to talk about supporting, but actually supporting. And one of the reasons why I think supporting people is so difficult is because it sometimes feels really passive.
Yeah.
But being there, ready, is incredibly valuable. And sometimes when you tell people that, it's such a relief to them. Such a relief to them to know that not doing something actively is actually a sign of love.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And it's quite a difficult message to deliver. Yeah. But the recipient, as you say, if they put that into practice, do often find that will help the situation enormously.
Yeah, both parties.
Yes.
Although it can feel incredibly difficult to get there because you're inevitably going to see to some extent that person that you love suffering.
Would you wrap that up in that phrase? I don't know if you like the phrase or even use it, but the term of tough love.
Yeah, I don't really use it, but I suppose, that is what that means, isn't it? That you can't, when someone is suffering through addiction, that isn't your suffering.
No.
It doesn't matter how much you love that person. It doesn't belong to you, that suffering. And so all the time you are taking ownership of it, trying to take it away, you're trying to take away something that does not belong to you. So you're never going to do it. And that would be true of depression or anxiety or anything else. You can't take away and take responsibility for someone else's pain. All you can do is to support them to the extent that they hopefully reach the point where they want to do something about it themselves. So
yeah, you're right. What you were saying there, it's almost you're drifting towards codependency there, aren't you? When you're trying to own it for them.
Yeah. It's understandable that you want to, but particularly if you're a parent, if you see your child suffering, we all know that feeling, it doesn't have to be something serious. When they fall over and they hurt themselves when they're kids and they're crying, you think, I want to take the pain away. You can't. It's not yours. And as hard as that is to keep in our minds, it is a truth.
Yeah, it is, and that leads on to what the next point was about. Sometimes the enabler will blame other people for their loved ones' challenges, and say, they hang around with the wrong people, or someone else has done something to them which makes them an alcoholic, they build this little wall around them to protect their behaviour.
Yeah, which is the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You have to be honest about it, don't you? You can still be honest about the behaviour and where the responsibility lies with kindness and compassion. But it doesn't help to say, well, it's the people you hang around with. That's not going to help.
No, you're right. And it's just going back to what I was talking about tough love, because I'm not a big fan of the phrase because it gives this nasty inflection upon it being ruthless. Where really, I think if that was reframed into something like more, multi-level caring or something different. I'm trying to think on my feet here.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think the problem with the phrase "tough love" is that you don't need the tough. The tough is superfluous. Love sometimes is tough.
Yeah.
If you really love someone and you want the best for them, then sometimes that is going to feel hard and awkward and painful. Love is not always going to be plain sailing. I think we've had this conversation in the past about how we all need a friend, at least one around us, who will tell us the truth.
Yeah.
When you're going on X Factor and saying, "Oh, I think I've got a lovely singing voice," and all your friends are saying, "Yeah, I think you're amazing," when you're shit, we all need that one person who's going to say, "Don't do it."
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
That's not for you, mate. And as hard as that is to say, and as hard as it might be to hear, that truth is love.
Yes.
And so that's why I think tough love is a bit of an unnecessary statement. If you love someone, sometimes you're going to be tough with them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's a prefix that doesn't deserve to be there or doesn't need to be there. You're right.
Yeah.
Another example of enabling behaviour is avoiding confrontation or topics surrounding drug and alcohol use, which really is looking at the lack of communication, I think, at that point. You stop talking about it, you put a barrier around it and don't want to talk about it, which means nothing's ever going to get done. It's easier for you but it's not easier for your loved one who's stuck behind that barrier.
Okay, a few weeks ago, you were talking about how when someone goes into recovery, quite often the people around them breathe a sigh of relief and think, "Great, we don't have to talk about that anymore."
That's it. Yeah.
And how actually that's the time you definitely do need to talk about it.
Yeah, it is.
That's that you need to be really getting into the guts of it and understanding that person as they begin to understand themselves. I mean, that's support, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. And that we'll come on to that in a second. The last point here, which I think you've already touched on, you've already mentioned it really, where someone tries to gain control over things outside of their control, i.e. owning their emotions.
Yeah.
It's tough, isn't it? It is tough. And I think, when I think about it, if you put yourself in that position, if it was one of your children, it would be so easy to drift into enabling because because it's an invisible line. It is a blurred line between that and supporting.
Yeah, the way the example I always think of, even if you have been fortunate enough not to have anyone in your life who's got addiction problems or any mental health issues, if you're a parent, and your children are of a certain age, you will almost certainly have seen one of your kids go through a breakup.
Yes.
And be really hurt by it.
Yeah.
That's awful as a parent to watch that. But it's a great example of how that is in no way your pain. There's nothing you can do to take that away. We all know, because we've all been through it, the only way through that is to walk through it yourself. And what you actually need are people around you who are going to support you, but they can't step in and do anything because that pain doesn't belong to them. No,
there's no such thing as sort of vicarious pain relief, is there? You can't take their pain on their behalf, although you'd love to. Yeah, I think people often use the phrase, if I could take that away from, especially you see a loved one in hospital hurting, if I could, I'd swap places with them. You can't, it's just not possible, is it? But emotionally, it's very easy to try and do that.
Correct. If I saw you in pain, I wouldn't try and take it away. I wouldn't be bothered about it.
You'd be too busy laughing, wouldn't you?
It depends what sort of pain.
Yeah.
If you fell over and hurt yourself, I definitely wouldn't want to take it.
You'd be laughing uncontrollably. You wouldn't be able to help me up, would you? It's the difference between with some people, really, isn't it, and others.
It's true love, isn't it? I don't want to take the.
Oh, right, I see what you mean. I have to walk through the pain and the embarrassment without you shielding me from it. No, I don't. Thank you very much. Now you've pointed it out. I can see. So I want to look at supporting behaviour.
Yeah.
The first one there was listening to them.
Yeah,
basically, it comes back to that communication.
It's hard, isn't it?
But listen to if you can get someone that's in the madness to explain what they're feeling. I think it's quite cathartic for the addict when they have a platform to do that, which is what we try to provide at the peer support groups.
I think part of the problem is when we think about listening to someone.
Yeah.
We move from listening to having a conversation and trying to bargain with them.
Yeah.
That is not what listening is. No. Listening is saying to someone, listen, I don't know what you're going through, but I want to understand it. Explain it to me.
Yeah.
And then them explaining it to you and you asking questions, but not trying to say, yeah, well, that's not right, is it? Or, well, you don't need to feel like that, do you? Or because that's not listening.
No.
That's telling someone, and that isn't helpful. And actually those sorts of behaviours are more about you. They're more about you wanting to be comfortable. If you're willing to listen to someone who's going through something tough, you have to accept that that'd probably be uncomfortable for you to hear.
That's right. And I think that sometimes again, it's probably not quite so applicable these days, but they often say, men try and fix things all the time. If you take something to that, and I think that's obviously it's not just limited to the male gender, but I think that people can fall into that category where they are uncomfortable. They want to try and fix it. They want to come up with something positive. Yeah. Sometimes just being there, just to listen to what's going on in someone's head is a good way forward, isn't it?
Yeah, that is. I mean, you're right. It is a generalisation, but it's a valid one, because that is true of a lot of men.
Yeah.
When their partners tell them something, they think that what they're being told is, I want you to fix this.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that can be really frustrating for people, because what you really just want to do is be heard.
Yes. Yeah. Being a resource to them. Now, a resource to them with things like passing on details of the local recovery hub, for example, and say this is an example. Supporting them, saying they can't do it for you, but there's some professionals that can help you out here. This is what I recommend. This is what I've researched, or this is what I've been told. So be a resource to them, but be a resource to them emotionally as well.
Yeah, I think this is where that line between enabling and supporting is really, really thin.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Because, as you said there, it needs to be driven by the individual, or it can be offered. You can signpost someone. You can say, listen, here's the details of the local recovery hub.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave them there for you.
That's it. And you stand back at that point.
Yeah, you do something with them if you feel like you want to, or if you need any further help, you need me take you there or whatever, I'll do it. What is not supporting is, I'm going to ring them up.
That's
see if I can get you in there.
Absolutely right.
That's not helpful, because that's just perpetuating the absence of responsibility that the person's got for themselves.
Absolutely right. And again, that's a conversation we have from time to time. You give them the details and stand back, basically.
Exactly
and that. Help them when they ask you questions. Be there to support them on that basis. So
that's
be
exactly.
really for them, especially if someone, like for me, for example, it's when people approach me about that. Which it's happened quite a lot over the years, and they know I'm in recovery, and they fess up and say, I think I've got something I need to do about it. I say, well, there's the details. I'll send you the link, and then take it from there. If you want to chat about anything afterwards, we'll crack on. And that's, I think, I wouldn't say it's a discharge of my responsibility, because sometimes that can give a negative inflection upon it. But I think that's as far as my responsibility deserves to go at that point. Or needs to go.
Yeah, because anything more than that is unhealthy.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Because someone's confided in you, told you that they think they've got a problem, and you have very clearly told them the first step.
Yes, that's it. And whether they take it or not after that is not my responsibility.
Yeah. If they take that first step and then they say, right, I've made contact.
Yeah.
Can I have a chat with you about it?
Yeah.
That's different, because it's everything there in that conversation is being driven by the individual.
That's it. And you're in a supportive role at that point. And they can you are a resource to them at that point because of your knowledge of the situation.
Yeah.
The next one, support. Avoid trying to solve all of their problems. Again, drifting into codependency. So not just the position of trying to sort out their drug or alcohol issue, but everything else that's surrounding them as well. Trying to control. So avoid doing that, because that's goes back to enabling rather than being supportive. Mm-hmm. Again, it's taken some of the responsibility that should be taken on board away from them. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Taking stuff away from people isn't supporting.
No.
I mean, obviously, if they say, can you give me some help with this? That's different.
Yes.
But yeah, taking control, it goes back to what I was saying before. It's not your pain.
It is, and absolutely right. And one that comes up quite a lot that we talk about, especially if someone is in recovery themselves, which does happen, obviously. If their loved one also has an issue, or that one of their children, so that's quite a tricky one as well. A parent to a child that's showing signs or was drifting into addiction and is perhaps opened up about it, but try not to take on their recovery as your responsibility, especially if you're in recovery yourself, because you're taking their baggage on as well. At that point, it can upset your own recovery. So again, do the signposting and stand back.
Yeah, I mean, that becomes really, really super difficult in that sort of situation. And again, that's not just limited to addiction. I can think of other mental health issues where that would be applicable. But quite often in that situation, the person feels like they want to help more because they feel some guilt.
Yes.
Think, God,
absolutely.
I've done this to you, haven't I?
Yeah.
Whether it's had an impact on them or not, that's not the issue here. This is about what they need to do in order to get the support they need.
I agree. And to wrap up this little section that is supporting behaviour, there's three words: empathy, respect, and encouragement. That is a way of wrapping it up. So although it's quite tricky to have walking in shoes empathy with an addict, I think having empathy perhaps with their emotional disturbance, and respect them and encourage them.
I don't think you need to have walking in shoes empathy.
No.
Because if you needed to have that, there would be a perfect reason for lots of us to abdicate, any involvement, wouldn't it? They say, I don't understand that, I'm going to stand back.
That's it.
That's why that listening part is so important.
Yeah.
I don't understand what you're going through, and I probably won't fully understand it, even if you tell me, but I'll get closer. So explain it to me.
Yeah. So just a little summing up phrase that I came across. When you're not sure if you're doing the best thing or what to do next, try coming back to the concept of boundaries. Enabling behaviours lack boundaries and perpetuate the problem. Supportive behaviours empower a person to make choices towards their recovery. So we've done episodes on boundaries, or we've mentioned it a lot in previous episodes regarding boundaries and how useful they are and how necessary they are. And I think in this situation, they are imperative.
Yeah, you can't support anyone emotionally without good boundaries.
No, exactly.
You think of a therapist. Imagine a therapist without any boundaries. They'd be saying, if you're feeling unhappy anytime, just give me a call.
Yeah.
How's that helpful? It might feel great. You might, if you're a client, you might think, oh, that's great. I can call my therapist 24/7.
Yeah.
How's that helping you to sort yourself out and to become more kind of balanced and able to deal with life's difficulties? So yeah, boundaries. So that's pretty much about me. Unless there's anything else you wanted to add at that point. No.
No is a complete sentence. You're absolutely right to use it there. Okay, we're going to go on to the gratitude lists.
All right, it must be your go this week.
Yeah, it is, and I'm just going to put back down really what we've already talked about this at the start and in the before we start section.
Oh,
I'm just grateful. It's got to be West Ham ending their 43-year wait for a trophy and actually winning on the night, because that would have been as tense and as nervous as it was worth it when they lifted the trophy. So I'm grateful that they actually did. I'm grateful for Jared Bowen scoring the winner. That's nice, actually. It's funny. Funnily enough, I didn't even consider that for my gratitude list this week. I don't know what that says about me. No, but no, if I'd had anything about that game, I would have probably felt grateful that I was able to watch it with you, because I've seen a lot of very disappointing football with you. Yeah. And so to see West Ham win a European competition with you, sober, that's not what I put on my great gratitude list. So I don't know, you're starting to get feel too pleased with yourself. Yeah, no, but it just reminds me that on that reward on that list on my gratitude, I should have put being sober to appreciate West Ham winning, or being alive to see West Ham win a trophy, because I was very close to checking out, wasn't I? So yeah, you were. Yeah, getting my recovery in place. I've actually been. That's one of the benefits. Oh, a bit disappointed you didn't have on your gratitude list that I fed you with a very nice vegetable curry beforehand. You did. Well, that's on on my list for next week. I'll put it on there. So. Right. It was an extraordinarily nice vegetable curry, I've got to say. Even I was quite impressed with it. It was very, very nice. I think your children were as well, weren't they? I think they were. So I'm going to have. I had to hire a van yesterday. Oh yeah. Well, Tom, my son, hired it, because I was helping him move to London on the hottest day of the year, driving through London in a white van. Oh, I haven't driven. I was thinking the last time I drove one was when I moved into my first house many years ago. But there was a lot that could have gone wrong yesterday, because we had to take all the stuff to his new house and then drive to IKEA in Croydon and get all that stuff in the van and back to it. And it all went very smoothly. So I feel grateful for that, because it's a pretty stressful situation, isn't it? Moving away. Certainly stressful moving your children out of home. So when I got back last night, I felt tired but pleased that everything had gone well. And I think, going back to what we were talking about before, when you're able to do something to help your kids get on, it feels pretty good as a parent, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. You're very much in the supportive role. Did you drive the van yourself, or did Tom drive?
I drove the van because it was much cheaper for an old fogey like me to drive it than it would have been for him as a young whippersnapper.
Yeah, who's likely to race it around the South Circular.
Exactly. It was quite enjoyable. I quite enjoyed being a white van, man. And I think one of the things that I hadn't realised, people get out of your way when you're in a white van.
Yeah.
If you sort of make a manoeuvre, people don't try and get ahead of you. They're like, oh, white van, man, I better get out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, you can find yourself drifting into character when you're behind the wheel of one of those as well, can't you? You have the window down with your elbow out of it. And
I was doing that, and I found when people let me out, instead of giving them a little wave like I do in my car, I gave them the thumbs up.
Did you? Yeah.
It felt more white van, man.
Yeah, it's much more working class, isn't it?
I just didn't have a copy of The Sun on the dashboard, which I should have done, really.
You need that, some old McDonald's wrappers and stuff shoved in there.
Anyway, but that was all right. But I wasn't grateful for the heat because that was absolute bullshit.
Well, I suppose you'd be grateful it wasn't raining, because I find moving when it's raining is horrible.
I've been happy with raining.
No, all your stuff gets wet when you're transporting.
It's not my stuff.
Well, no, it's not your stuff, but it's. I know when I've done it, I've moved several times, and doing it in the rain is awful. I prefer it in the sun where it's a bit uncomfortable. But everyone to their own.
Yeah.
I'm not trampling over your gratitude list.
No, good.
Do you feel like
I am? A bit about diversity in this issue, after all.
I'm showing narcissistic tendencies. Days of the year.
Yep.
Nothing great on here, really. But one of them I'd never heard of is National German Chocolate Cake Day. Do you know what a German chocolate cake is? Is it good?
Yeah, I think we had this. I think this came up before, didn't it?
No, it didn't. There was something that was similar to that as another nationality. But I think
a Black Forest Gatto is a German chocolate cake, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of any. Hang on. What about what they call tort? Yeah, I can think of a couple of.
Can you?
Sort of classic German chocolate cakes, either a Black Forest Gatto or a very sort of thick, rich, almost sort of moussey, thinner chocolate cake.
I like the sound of that, I've got to say.
Do you? So not the day to be eating it today, I wouldn't.
Not really.
Better off with an ice cream.
Well, the next one is a bit more an outsider day of the year. Oh, that's day of the week, actually.
All right.
It's Love Your Burial Ground Week.
Love your burial ground?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I haven't got an individual burial ground.
No,
do you mean go to the local burial ground
exactly
and
that.
love it?
Yeah, which is a little bit macabre. But
what should you do? Sort of, I don't know, cut the grass or something, or tend to the flowers?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it reminds me when I lived in Headcorn. When
nice cemetery there.
There's around the church, and that grass used to have a little team get together to cut the grass.
Yeah.
And I remember Jim, our mutual friend, he rang me and said, "Oh, I've volunteered you and I to go and help cut the grass on a Sunday." And I said, "Oh, okay, that's fine. I'll see you around there." And I turned out and he wasn't there.
That was a big surprise.
No. So I was cutting the grass with other people. So I thought I'd ring him, see where he is. I rang him. He said, "Oh, no, I didn't put my own name down after all."
He just put your name down?
He just put my name down. Yeah, didn't put his own down. Just to tuck me up. So that was hot that day. I remember the first time I did it. It was sweltering. And I was loving my burial ground there, but I was helping at the local church, you know.
That's nice, though, I think. I think there's I don't know, I haven't seen one for a long time, but there's a series of videos on TikTok where this person cleans headstones.
Oh, okay.
And it's a fascinating watch, actually.
Does he do
it's all in sort of speed, sort of, what do they call it?
Yeah, time lapse.
Yeah, time lapse, that's it. Yeah. And I don't know, there's something very satisfying about someone cleaning a headstone.
Especially if you see the words sort of become visible again.
Correct, that's exactly it. So that person is obviously loving their burial ground or loving multiple burial grounds.
But, well, quite. But there's quite quite a lot of tourism goes on to the burial grounds of places where famous people are buried, like Highgate Cemetery, for example.
Karl Marx.
Where Karl Marx is, and George Eliot. I think there's some other people up there that are in the burial ground there as well. So I think that cemetery is quite well.
We should go over to Vinter's Crematorium, see if we can find any famous people over there, apart from our parents.
Well, it used to be quite a day out when I used to go over there and visit both my parents and my brother.
Have your parents got have they got a sort of headstone, a sort of marker there?
No, it was a plaque, brass plaque.
Have they still got it there? Is it still there?
No, they've all gone. They've all gone. You renew them every 10 years.
Yeah.
We did it a couple of times, and they're no longer there.
Yeah, we never had any for my parents. We're skinflints.
No, it just seemed, it always seemed a little bit inadequate, to be honest.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, it's not them anyway, is it? They're off
not.
in the ether somewhere.
Yeah, exactly that. On this day in music,
Yep.
1977, Joe Strummer was arrested after the theft of a Holiday Inn pillowcase. How about that? That's very rock and roll, isn't it?
I don't know what he's doing with it.
Well, I think he got fined in the end, but I don't know. But I think he got arrested for it, or he was charged with it and then didn't turn up on the day of the court case. So it got a bit more serious.
Like Jim to clean to cut the grass in the cemetery.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Maybe he was using it as a bag. Do you think he was sort of maybe he needed had some things he needed to carry? I don't know, some spare leads, plectrums, strings.
I just use the pillowcase. Didn't get away with it. I think the toiletries. They're designed to be taken away, basically, aren't they? Everyone nicks their toiletries from the hotel room before they go.
Although they often have a sign, don't they, in a hotel room that you can't take the bathrobe.
Yeah. Or the towels or the bedsheet.
Yeah, or the Kirby trouser press.
You can't take that out. Nothing you can however tempting it is. Yeah, but to get done for nicking a pillowcase, a little bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that would happen these days. Not that I'm condoning the theft of pillowcases. I mean, where would it end?
Well, exactly. A Holiday Inn would be on its knees if we were all like Joe Strummer. 1966. Roger Daltrey was mistakenly reported dead on the radio. So yes, which is a bit. That's not very nice, is it?
That's a long. So he's outlived his inaccurate death report by many years, isn't he?
Yeah. He wanted to die before he got old, but he wanted to die before he got old.
Yeah, perhaps that's why. Perhaps that's what prompted the report.
I think it was just apparently. Peter Townsend had been involved in a car accident, and that got reported. And Chinese whispers said that Roger Daltrey's dead. Anyway. Okay, well, I'm going to just end a couple of little years here. I'm just going to do a little quiz for you here.
Great, because I was good last time, wasn't I?
You got it spot on, and to guess the year is quite tricky. So you did well.
Go on.
I'm not sure if you'd do as well this time.
Okay.
On this day, Lindsay DePaul was born, but what year?
1948.
51, so you're not too far out there.
Okay, 3 years. That's pretty good. I don't know why I said 1948. It just came into my head.
You went straight through it. I mean, I started to question whether my information, but you were so positive in your response.
I'm still pretty pleased with 3 years.
It's not bad, especially that long.
Okay.
And what year on this day was White a Shade of Pale #1 in the UK by Procol Harum?
1968.
67.
Wow, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah, you are. I'm thinking I'm going to introduce that. I'm going to have a couple of little questions for you each week.
I might have a couple for you then.
I'm not so good at those.
How many weeks was Boston More Than a Feeling in the top 10?
Whatever it was way too long. Okay, right. So that's me done, mate.
Good. Oh, well, you go and enjoy the sun.
Yes.
I'm going to try and keep out of it as much as possible.
Are you? Yeah.
All right, mate.
Okay, mate. Take it easy.
Laters.
Bye.
Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandy-wellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.